What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. So the copy that I have here is called The Complete Conversations with God, and that's because it has books 1, 2, and 3 all in this very nicely polished hardcover copy. Little side note, I really like this copy, especially because you can get them as like individual books, 1, 2, and 3. And if you're skeptical, you might just want to do that first. I think it is more cost effective. They're soft covers. So yeah, maybe get just book 1 first, read it, see how you like it before you move on. But I really like the hardcover because it has this index at the back. And the index itself is probably about 20 pages. And it lists any like topic, so keywords. So the first one, it's alphabetical. So the first word is abortion. And it tells you what pages you're going to find discussions on abortion. So page 619 to 620, and then again on pages 622 to 626. Yeah, so like I said, there's about, how many pages? It's about 20 pages, just the index itself. So I find that to be a very useful tool. Having read the book, I often come back and go to the index whenever I'm thinking about a topic, and it's like, oh, what did they say about that in Conversations with God? Let's jog my memory. And I come back to the index and go find where that topic is. So let me get into what they mean when they say conversations with God. So is it really having a conversation with God? Come on, no, I can't be a conversation with God. What is this, the Bible? Well, you might be quick to put a label on this and call it New Age. In fact, you probably find it in the New Age section of like a bookstore, but New Age often has a negative connotation with it. So I want to just talk a little bit about the nature of how this is written. So when they say God, we can go ahead and replace the word God in this context with source consciousness. And they do explain that in this book. But imagine if you could just have a conversation with God, with whatever that you think God is, the omniscient, all-knowing, all-powerful force in the universe. You can imagine one of the first questions that you're going to ask is, what are you? And that's sort of what they do, what Neale does in this book. I'll actually get into how he stumbled upon writing this. So he was working a job. I forget what he did for a living, but it was something that I think he might have been working in like finance, but he really wanted to be a writer, and he was having a hard time kind of making it work. So he was falling into this victim mentality a little bit of like, woe is me. He was having a hard time supporting his family, granted. So what he would do is he would do this exercise where, let's say I have a hard day at work. I'll come home, and if I got into a fight with my boss, I'll write a letter to my boss, kind of airing my grievances. But I don't actually present this letter to my boss. It's just a way for me to self-reflect and kind of like get my thoughts off my chest. Now, Neale would do this as well. One day he came home and he was just kind of pissed overall. He was just not having a good day. He was upset, not with anybody in particular, but just at the state of his life. So he came home and he wrote a book, not necessarily addressed to anyone, but kind of just speaking about everything and everyone. So you could say he was writing a letter supposedly to God. Well, he was about to walk away from the letter when he said that his hand got the urge to stay there and keep writing. And he didn't know what was going to come of it, but he kind of just listened to that urge, that intuition, let his hand do its thing, and he got an answer to some of the questions that he had written in his letter. Some of the questions in that letter were, why is it so hard? Stuff like this. And he felt, well, this isn't me writing this answer. I'm just kind of open as a channel for these answers to flow. If you've ever done like a tarot card reading or something like this, it's sort of the same thing. Any sort of psychic or oracle kind of works on the same principles, where they're just kind of opening themselves up as a channel for source consciousness to flow through. So that's how he got this book. That's how we got all 750 some odd pages. So it's quite big, but like I said, it is all 3 books in one. Now, you don't have to just, I want to urge you here, don't dismiss this book just because you heard what I just said and it sounds wishy-washy, woohoo, new age spirituality. At least read the first 50 pages. Like, if you were thinking about it, this book is one of the greatest books that I've ever read. And if you actually just entertain it and read at least the first 50 pages, you'll find that it doesn't feel like it's wishy-washy or woohoo. They cover all the angles, all the corners, any doubts that you might have are covered in this dialogue, this uncommon dialogue, as they say in the subtitle. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a warning there. Don't be quick to dismiss it. Go ahead and give it a read, at least the first 50 pages. And if you're open-minded, it's going to really, really hit hard. It's going to sit with you. It's quite profound. I remember the first book, they get longer. Like, the second one's longer than the first, and the third is longer than the second. But I think I read the first book, it's probably like 200 some odd pages in like a few days because of how intrigued I was. It was really captivating. It was really profound. I couldn't put it down. So I finished that book in like a few days. The first book is about dealing with like more personal challenges, more worldly things. So it kind of relates to you on a personal level. The second book takes more of a global approach. And the third book is more universal. They're discussing more like eternal truths and stuff like that. More cosmic questions. So personally, the first book was my favorite. It just seemed a lot more practical, a lot more pragmatic. You'll probably find the same. But the second and third were fantastic as well. So don't just stop at the first one. And if you read the first one, I can guarantee you're not going to want to just stop at the first one. You're going to keep reading the second, third. And there is a fourth. They wrote that like years later. I don't know if I mentioned that already. But it was originally meant to be a trilogy, 3 books, and then they wrote a fourth one later. What else do I want to say about this book? This book does a fantastic job making distinctions between absolute truth / objective reality and subjective relative reality, relative truths. So another way to say that is that they dive into breaking down how the nature of reality is non-dual. Now, I'm not going to dive too much into that here because I can go on for hours. But go ahead and read the book to find out more on that. And you can also watch some other videos I have to find out more on that, / future videos. Essentially, one more thing I want to say on that is by source consciousness being synonymous with God in this case, it's also synonymous with you, what you truly are. Not this body, not your thoughts, what you are fundamentally. The I am that you are. Not to quote Moses, but it's no coincidence that you find that line in the Bible. They also pick out a lot of really, really good lines from other sacred scriptures across all bands of different religions. So not just like Catholicism, although I would say that they primarily pick lines from Catholic scriptures, only because the author himself grew up surrounded by Catholicism and Christianity the most. So it made more sense for source consciousness to communicate to him through examples that he would already understand and has already heard. So stuff like I am that I am, or I and the Father are one. To quote, Moses and Jesus Christ. This book also doesn't pick any sides, so it's not a religious book. There's actually a line in here where it says something like, further embrace spirituality, but drop religion. And they go into the dogma behind religion and the corruption behind it and why that is the way it is. They dive into the nature of human psychology quite a bit. Yeah, like I said, they don't do any side picking. So they don't talk about things from more of one religion's perspective or talk about how this religion is better than that one. And no, he doesn't do any of that. He actually calls out all corruption, all dogma, and points out value in all religions as well. But like I said, points out how they are and can be fundamentally flawed through our natural tendencies to corrupt. All in all, this book is amazing. If you are religious, I highly recommend you read this book because he points out a lot that's going to make you not question your faith, but it's going to make you reflect on your own ideology, which is so valuable. So if you are open-minded, but you're religious, read this book. It's going to change your life. And if you're not religious, you didn't really grow up in a religious environment, read this book. It's going to change your life. If you are anybody on this planet who reads English or whatever other languages that this book is available in, read this book. It's going to change your life. And I mean that. If you apply the teachings in this book, you will notice drastic differences in your life. I read this book at a really important time in my life, and it really helped me make a lot of valuable changes. I'm really grateful for it. You can also get it as an audio book, which is really nice as well. If you've never had Audible, or there's a bunch of other services, I forget what they're called. I think one's literally called Audiobook. You can go and sign up for an account, free trial. You get 1 free credit, and books 1, 2, and 3 are available with only 1 credit. So you can kind of get the whole bang for $1. And yeah, it's really worth it. The audiobook is really nice. I think that's all I want to say. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off on that. Have you guys already read this? And you're just kind of checking out some reviews? If so, what do you think? Did I do a good job? If you're thinking about reading it, but you're not quite sold, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to sell you on this. But if you have more questions, feel free to go ahead and ask me in the comments, and I'll get back to you. And lastly, I do offer free coaching sessions to anybody who wants one. So you can go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram, or you can email me. I'll attach the links to both of those things in the description below. And you can reach out to me. We'll book a free coaching call. First one's free to anybody who wants it. We'll do some work together, and we'll help make some very desired changes that you have in your life. Go ahead and give me a like. If you enjoyed this video, share it with a friend, leave a comment, do what you may. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.